morning, and we got 3 different answers, so I love that from you guys. Who is the most surprising Guardian of the season? And Earl, I want to start with you. We'll go G, and we'll wrap up with you, Jay. But
okay.
I open the floor. You could have taken this in a good route, in a good way, good surprise, and you could have went in a bad route, a bad surprise. And Earl, you went with a guy we mentioned earlier. But tell me who your most surprising Guardian this year is.
I mean, to me, it's David Fry for everything we talked about earlier. At 28 years old, he's hit this crazy, insane, out-of-this-world peak that the projection or the potential shouldn't say that he should be batting .314 right now with an OPS of .983. I think he's shown this combination of power, contact, and discipline at the plate this season that I have not seen from David Fry throughout his career. This is a dude last year who, struggled, didn't know if he was going to have a secure roster spot, et cetera. I don't think anybody came into this 2024 campaign saying that, you know what, David Fry is going to be somebody that we can lean on, to help us get wins. He's versatile. I think before yesterday's day off, he catched the last 7 games in a row. So, like, the versatility, just the discipline at the plate, the power, the contact, everything he's doing right now, I think it's surprising everybody locally and nationally. So for me, the biggest surprise for the Cleveland Guardians this year, without question, is David Fry.
Yeah, I think it's a slam dunk answer.
Yeah, that's the obvious.
But we all wanted to go in a different area, so we picked other guys.
I had to take the downside. I had to take the downside, man. Bo Naylor, man, where you at, dog?
Yeah.
Bo Naylor, I picked you to get 20-something plus home runs in the beginning of the season. You batting a dime 76 right now, bro. Like, and here's the part that's tough. He looks like he's lost confidence. Like, he's not up there looking like a power hitter. Like, and here's a dilemma. He was supposed to be the dude up, and how the Guardians really work and operate is, like, when they give you your opportunity, you know what I'm saying, they finally put you in a position where you can take that position and by the horns and stay up here. Now you playing so bad and hitting so bad. I mean, he does a good job behind the plate. But you got dudes like Fry. Fry is playing so well, you got to find a position for him to play now every single day. And the dilemma is, well, now what do you do with Bo Naylor? Are you going to send him back down to the AAA? Are you, like, to me, that's a wasted year. Bo Naylor got to be bouncing between here and AAA. This kind of happened with Oscar Gonzalez a little bit. He showed, the ability to do something, and then all of a sudden the next year he had the worst year of his life, and he's out of the league or somebody else. I'm not saying that that's going to happen to Bo Naylor, but Bo Naylor was supposed to be that guy that really bolstered the bottom of the order and that was supposed to take that next step. It's been disappointing to see, batting like that. And the only thing that's saving the Guardians is that Fry is playing as well as he has, so you don't really notice it as much. Like, you're like, okay, but we got production for catch. But I think Bo Naylor is my choice with that one.
Here's the problem with the Guardians roster right now in their lineup. When you get through the first 7 hitters, you get to exhale. Rocchio and Naylor at the bottom of the order, it fears no one's afraid of that.
No.
You got guys that are hitting, I think Rocchio's sub 200 as well. I know he hit a home run yesterday. But
he had 2 home runs in a weekend. Like, yeah. Where did that come from?
Listen, we need a lot more of that. You can't have 2 guys in your lineup. What's Rocchio hitting? I don't want to ding him too hard. In my mind, he's hitting below 200 or right at 200.
Brayan Rocchio this season is hitting 213.
Yeah, see, that's troubling because Freeman has also kind of been wavering.
Yeah, 220, 230.
He's 223.
Okay, so you get through the first 4 or 5 hitters, and teams are now working around those guys, even if they get the bases loaded and leave them loaded. When you get to the bottom of the order, nobody scares you. Yeah. Right. Whether it's Will Brennan is having a decent year. He's probably around 220, but he's hitting for more power.
He's hitting 240.
240, that's okay. We'll take that. But you can have one of those in your lineup. Then you've got Freeman, Rocchio, and Naylor, who are all right generally. Probably if you add them all up, they're right around 200.
Rocchio's 213, Naylor's 176, and what was the other name? Freeman 223, and Josh Naylor's not in this category. He's hitting 229.
No, Josh Naylor has fallen off an absolute cliff. Josh Naylor was having an MVP kind of season early, and now all of a sudden, Bo's trouble at the plate have rubbed off on Josh.
And if it wasn't for his power, I think he's still 5th in the league in home runs.
And he's up there in RBI too.
But if it wasn't for that, he's fallen off dramatically at the plate.
Here's the good thing.
There's a lot of evidence that's swirling around that there are red flags in this lineup.
Here's the good thing. Every time we come on this show and we have these type of conversations about somebody in that lineup, they typically go out there the next game and they have a good game. So hopefully Bo hears all of this. You know, he goes out there and it turns around.
He's been at 170 for a long time.
A question for you, and I don't know, what his value is like now, but to your point,
not what it was.
Last year, I remember we was calling like crazy for Bo to be, in the major leagues. Here he is, and he's been a disappointment. Would you, seeing the prospects that we have, we do have the number 1 first overall pick in the draft. So we got prospects right now that's like 18, 19 waiting in the wings. Would you include Bo in some type of trade package this year?
See, that's tricky.
If it brought back the right pieces?
Well, that's tricky because Josh and Bo love playing together. Josh is a pro. He would understand that. Probably wouldn't love it, but he would understand it. But at this point, I don't even know what his trade value is. He's the new car model that looked nice and shiny and new and had a good sticker price on it. But then you drove it for 3 months and you're like, this car isn't all that. It's not doesn't have the kind of value that I thought it was going to have because it's not shiny and new anymore, and you know what the performance is on it.
Jay, are you talking to me specifically or something? Are you saying that too? Like, did you use that as an example? Okay, it's all right.
I'm not.
Garrett had his.
I just don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with Bo. I don't know if they want to stay committed to him. You can't keep trotting him out there and have him hit 170. You can't. Because someone said I think it's hurting his confidence.
Yeah.
It is. When you roll out there every day and you get 17 hits out of 100 at-bats, it reinforces I'm not ready for this yet.
And it messes you up a little bit, especially when you come up and you young and you hitting the ball, you're like, oh, this major league stuff is nothing. Yeah, this is light. And then all of a sudden, you start hitting the ball, and then you go through a slump, and then you get to a point where you below a slump. Now you start questioning yourself and thinking, was I even ever that good? Did I just hit a couple good pitches?
I wonder what his batting average was in AAA before he got called up last year.
I think he had good numbers in AAA. I think he did.
My mom and dad was having a knockdown, drag-out conversation about this.
About what to do with Bo Naylor?
Yeah, like my mom is a huge Bo Naylor fan.
I love Bo Naylor. I love him.
My dad said, Dorothy, you got to sit him down. He got to go. She's like, no. Listen, he'll come through. Stop. We're going to need him at the end of the year. I'm like, I can't believe you Guardians people is arguing on the porch about this.
Bo was hitting 255 with 13 home runs in AAA last year.
Decent. For a catcher, decent numbers.
He hit 237 in 67 games last year.
I'm just starting to think out loud because Frot just caught the last 7 games prior to the off day, right?
Right.
Austin Hedges is a serviceable backup catcher. And we talk about the holes that we have in our lineup. We talk about need to add another arm to the rotation. And I get it. The batting average is down. This year has been a big disappointment. But, Bo Naylor came with a lot of hype and expectations behind him, at least locally he did. So I'm just wondering, if you can include him in a package to kind of get that one arm that's a game changer.
It might take a Bo Naylor and a Gabriel Arias. Arias is another one.
I might have to do what I got to do what I have to do.
And in the wings for a long time. And he just hasn't panned out to be the guy that we thought he was going to be. And if you want to win a World Series,
we got the opportunity to do it.
You can't have weaknesses like a $170 hitter behind the plate, a 213 hitter at shortstop, and a 220 hitter in center field. You can't. You can't have that. You can have one below average guy, but everybody else has to be having career years. If you want to win a World Series, it takes everybody.
And them boys, when you start talking about the playoffs, they like these is like role players in the NBA. You cannot you count on these, you can almost mark these down for outs.
Can you imagine? Just imagine the Guardians being down a run, bottom of the ninth, and the hitters coming up, It's Bo Naylor, Rocchio.
It's going to happen.
What playoff teams bullpens? Nah, them is K's. Them
Yeah,
is
so
sit down.
you've got to make moves. And, look, sometimes it's painful. To get something, you got to give up something. And the quality of player that we need to get in here, we need a serviceable arm. And we need, I think, a catcher. If they're not going to put Fry at catcher every day, I think that's their easiest answer. Just plug Fry in, let him catch every day, and either put Bo Naylor on the block or put him down in AAA for a minute.
Jay, who's your surprise player? We heard from G. We heard from Earl.
Yeah, mine is Ben Lively, just because I expected little to nothing from this guy. I really didn't expect anything from him. And I know he's hit a little bit of a skid here where he had the injury and they sent him home to get looked at. They said nothing structural, and they put him back out there to pitch. And it was probably one of his most disappointing starts. So I think he's pitching in pain. That's never good. And sometimes tests that can show no structural damage today, in 2 weeks he could have a torn UCL. You just don't know how these things go. Something is clearly amiss with him because he wasn't the same guy in his last start.
Yeah, he just did.
So I'm worried about that. I'm worried about Ben Lively. But I obviously you want to say David Fry. That's the only answer to this. But I want in the exercise of trying to give somebody else some love, I put Ben Lively in there. But David Fry, nobody could have expected this from David Fry.
I will throw to Freeman's glove in center field is
good point.
Is kind of way better than I thought it was.
Oh my God, that's a position that takes sometimes years to play
and
to learn how to play.
He's been playing it like 3 or 4 months, right?
He went out there in spring training and he's absolutely nailing it.
Nice
2 catches he had the other night against Cincinnati were unbelievable.
Never played the position.
One more guy that I think could be in the most surprising category. We just spent 20 minutes talking about him last category, but Stephen Kwan had never hit 300 in a season, which is hard to believe. He hit 297 as a rookie and then dropped a little bit last year. The fact that he's hitting close to 400, I think we all expected a bounce back, but we're talking literally, and I know it's June 17th and he missed a month, he's batting over 100 points better than he did in his career best season, which none of us saw coming. So a lot of good candidates. And I think you guys picked the 3 most obvious but best 3 choices, 2 on the good side, 1 on the bad.
Yeah.